tonight, the manhunt is over. 2 fugitives wanted for 3 murders found dead in northern Manitoba.
It's huge to be able to hopefully give some people an opportunity to exhale.
In depth on the investigation and the many unanswered questions.
Calls for change.
I want to send Trump a message that we need to have sensible gun control.
As Donald Trump visits communities ravaged by gun violence, how the spate of shootings has put Americans on edge.
And the health and environmental risk spreading in the Great Lakes.
It's got a very offensive odor to it.
The cross-border fight against harmful algae. This is The National. The crime story that has captivated the country for weeks is finally over. After a cross-country manhunt, false leads and dead ends, the 2 men suspected of killing 3 people in northern BC are now believed to be dead. Briar Schmigelski and Cam McLeod led police on an exhaustive chase. It ended this morning. The RCMP is still waiting for autopsies to officially confirm the identities of the bodies, but they are making it clear they have no doubt the suspects are dead and that this part of the saga is over.
There's obviously a certain amount of relief that we were able to locate these people and hopefully bring some closure. It's huge to be able to hopefully give some people an opportunity to exhale.
The bodies were found in the woods near the shoreline of the Nelson River in the area of Fox Lake Cree Nation, only about 8 kilometers from where a burned-out Toyota RAV4 stolen by the pair was found just over 2 weeks ago. All of this about 70 kilometers northeast of Gillam, Manitoba, where much of the search had been concentrated for more than 2 weeks. And that's where the CBC's Angela Johnston begins our coverage tonight.
We knew that we needed just to find that one piece of evidence that could move this search forward. On Friday, August 2nd, that one critical piece of evidence was found.
That evidence, only what police will describe as personal items linked to Briar Schmigelski and Cam McLeod, found near this boat. Their discovery was the beginning of the end of this search. Police now knew where to look.
This morning, at approximately 10 a.m., RCMP officers located 2 male bodies.
Police say they're confident the bodies are those of the suspects, but autopsies have been ordered to be sure and to shed light on how they died and when. Police say the bodies were found in dense brush. About 8 kilometers northeast of where the SUV Schmigelski McLeod drove here was found on fire more than 2 weeks ago. Today, BC RCMP confirmed it belonged to Leonard Dick, the last of the 3 people the pair is accused of killing. Here in Gillam, nagging fear and that heavy police presence had become the norm. So today, word that it's all finally over was met with relief.
Well, just an absolute sense of relief that there's going to be some closure for the communities.
But with it, an understanding of what the deaths of the wanted men, if confirmed, could mean for the families of Dick, Lucas Fowler, and China Deese. All 3 were found murdered in BC in July. Their loved ones have been waiting for answers ever since.
Those families, I don't know how they're ever going to get closure from this because I don't know how they can get answers, and I feel deeply for those families.
China Deese's mother reacted with one word: speechless, she told us. Police were asked today how the suspects were able to elude them for so long. RCMP defended their investigation, pointing out just how much of Canada it covered.
Well, I don't think I need to educate anyone on the geography of this country, but it's a huge country. If you look at the distance traveled, this is like, and I looked at it on a map, this is like traveling from London to Moscow.
To the RCMP officers who carried out this search, thanks today from the top.
I commend you for your determination, your innovation, for never giving up.
Angela Johnston, CBC News, Gillam, Manitoba.
People in Manitoba may be breathing easier tonight, but for the suspects' families back in BC, today's news brings little comfort as they struggle to come to terms with all of this. Tanya Fletcher is in their hometown of Port Alberni tonight.
For 2 young men whose photos have been seen around the world, the community where they're from is stunned to hear these latest developments.
It's a mixed reaction, but I'm glad if it is the boys, I'm glad that, Canada's safe now. We don't have to search anymore.
Friends since childhood, the two had just finished a summer job at Walmart before leaving town last month, saying they were looking for work in Whitehorse. How they went from a road trip to missing persons to murder suspects to fugitives is still unknown, and for the family, deeply unsettling.
At first we thought that he was missing, and we were all worried about it, and then it was really shocking to hear that these are suspects, so they've charged them, and it just it doesn't fit. I've never heard of just two good kids going out and doing something like this.
Lee McNabb's aunt is Briar Schmigelski's grandmother, whom he lived with for many years.
She's a nice lady and she loves that kid.
He says this latest news doesn't make sense to the family.
They're being charged, they're not guilty. Like, let's see some proof. Let's see what the RCMP have. Like, there's got to be some holes in this story.
And RCMP acknowledge some of those answers may never come.
It's going to be extremely difficult for us to ascertain definitively what the motive was. Obviously, we will not have the opportunity to speak with these individuals.
And Tanya, when we look back at the stories over the last few weeks, we seem to have more about Schmigelski than McLeod. You've been trying to find out more about McLeod. What have you found?
Yeah, you're right, Ian. We really don't know as much about Cam McLeod, but people here I've been speaking with these past few weeks here in Port Alberni say the 19-year-old was a polite young man. They describe him as kind and considerate. Workers at the coffee shop he frequented say he was very respectable. And those are the same words that his father used to describe him. Keith McLeod had told me over the phone that he was a kind and considerate, caring young man, always concerned about other people's feelings. At the time, he didn't talk to the media, but he did tell me on the phone that he couldn't get through his sentence without breaking down, and no doubt that's how they're still feeling tonight with these latest developments. Ian?
All right. Thank you, Tanya. Now, for friends and family of the three people killed in northern BC, some of whom have spoken to us as the story unfolded, the last few weeks have been exhausting, nerve-wracking, and a constant reminder of their loss. Tonight, we want to give them some more time to talk about their loved ones.
Lucas met China in Croatia. We're so happy that Lucas and China found each other and had such a great time travelling together, meeting new friends, and just milking every last drop of fun out of life.
Right until the end, that man was free. He was living life just how he wanted and showing me that life is there to be grabbed onto and throttled into fifth gear, or you weren't doing it right.
She had a maturity beyond her lifetime, and I just feel so lucky to even have been that close with her and to share a life with her. China was my best friend.
She wrote this note to me, and that was China. She left a piece of her behind anywhere she went.
The hard work he did raising his kids, and the equally hard work he did as a researcher, and the time he spent and the focus he put on that kind of work. He loved it.
He and China live on in our hearts. We always love you.
Thank you for everything. I miss you, brother. We had a lifetime of good times and memories in front of us, but as always, we couldn't keep up, and you've taken this final adventure without us.
And stay with us for more on this story tonight. We'll speak with a retired police investigator about some of the unanswered questions in this case. That's later in the program. But let's move now to the other major story of the day. The President of the United States visiting two cities, still mourning after two mass shootings. And Rosie, there was a political tone to the day.
Yeah, there sure was, Ian. Donald Trump spent his day, though, with victims' families and survivors and first responders, first in Ohio and then in Texas, but not everyone was welcoming. As the communities continue to grieve, some say the president's trip is adding to their pain. We'll have more about the very public reaction on the ground in just a moment. But the president says he is ready to move on some new gun control measures, though there's doubt on whether Washington can unite around any such policy.
I think my rhetoric is it brings people together. Our country is doing incredibly well.
Even before he left the White House, Donald Trump was facing more questions about his divisive rhetoric and what role that might have played in normalizing racism and violence.
Well, I do agree, but I think we have toned it down. We've been getting hit left and right from everybody.
But on the streets of Dayton, Ohio, it was anger and grief that awaited the president.
I want to send Trump a message that we need to have sensible gun control in this country.
Many, still reeling after 9 people were gunned down, simply did not want the president there at all, including the mayor of Dayton and the state's Democratic senator who welcomed Trump at the airport in spite of that. Trump made no public appearances in Ohio and was asked to stay away from the crime scene. His only visit was to the hospital where victims are recovering. No media was allowed, but Trump made sure to tweet the pictures later. Though the mayor said victims and first responders were grateful the president made the trip, she also made sure to deliver a clear message about banning assault weapons.
Too often we just see complete inaction because they're waiting just for time for people to forget that 9 people died in Dayton. Do I think that we're going to see another mass shooting tomorrow or Friday? Probably, because Washington will not move.
Trump made his way to El Paso later in the day. The motive here, racism and anti-immigrant sentiment. Before meeting with first responders and survivors there, the president took a moment to criticize the mayor's press conference, calling it a fraud.
They shouldn't be politicking today.
There was no further promise of gun control from Trump, other than the undefined suggestion he made this morning on the White House lawn.
Well, I'm looking to do background checks. I think background checks are important. I don't want to put guns into the hands of mentally unstable people or people with rage or hate.
The problem, of course, is that Trump has said that before, after the Parkland massacre, for instance, and nothing has come of it. In El Paso, Trump was greeted by protesters and some supporters, 2 emotionally charged groups that gathered separately at first. Kim Brunherber was there when they clashed.
The drums in El Paso started beating before the president even landed, the anger as palpable as the midday heat. The message to Donald Trump, in English and Spanish, stay away. You have blood on your hands.
I think he's a racist and incite these kinds of events.
Do you believe President Trump is to blame for the shooting?
I do believe he is.
Erica Lopez and her friends say Trump's visit just opens raw wounds.
We're pissed. We're upset. For him to come here, it's a mistake. He shouldn't be here today.
Most in this crowd don't care what brought him here, be it compassion or politics. Minds are firmly closed.
There's nothing he could say that could...
No.
For Monica Berthold, carrying the most DIY of signs, it's the distinction between prompter Trump and rally Trump.
When he speaks from the heart, he speaks hatred. So no one can trust what he says. USA! USA!
Not far away, a much smaller crowd, rolling out a big welcome for the president.
I think his presence here will show that he is the president of all the people, and that he came here to bring empathy to the people who were, the families of the people who were murdered here by this lunatic.
USA!
They firmly reject the idea that Trump is to blame for this or any of the racially motivated shootings in America.
You know, there's been a lot of divisiveness, but it's been caused by the people that have been fighting Donald Trump for the last 2.5 years. And if anybody, I think it's them that actually have the blood on their hands.
It's the Democrats, you mean?
Democrats?
Soon, the Trump supporters were joined by a few anti-Trump demonstrators.
Nobody ever touched you, so what the heck are you lying about that for, huh?
Who were then themselves protested.
Go back to your rally if you don't like it here. USA!
And on it goes. While not 200 meters away, the gunshot victims lie in hospital, fighting for their lives. Kim Brunhuber, CBC News, El Paso, Texas.
Now, those back-to-back shootings have ratcheted up anxiety across the United States, putting people and police on edge.
There was a big stampede and people were screaming and crying.
In public, in a crowd right now, just about any loud noise can prompt panic, like the one that caused people in New York's Times Square to run for safety last night. Some tried to storm a theater. The audience started screaming and the cast fled the stage, tweeted one actor. "This is the world we live in. This cannot be our world." The sound wasn't gunshots. It was motorcycles backfiring. In Utah, a loud noise in a mall sent people scrambling for cover.
That incited a panic within the crowd. So they started running. People were running into stores and hiding.
No shooter, just a falling sign. Police went store to store to spread the good news. But in a Baton Rouge Walmart, the sound of gunshots was real.
So what was going through your mind when you heard that pop, those gunshots?
Not today, not this Walmart.
Thankfully, it wasn't a mass shooter. Two customers got in an argument, both pulled out their guns, one pulled the trigger. The innocent bystander who was shot multiple times is recovering.
Some of the other stories we're following tonight on The National, including an afternoon of violence in Toronto with a fatal stabbing and a gang-related shooting. Police found a vehicle peppered with bullet holes in North York around 3:30 Eastern. Two men rushed to hospital, one in life-threatening condition. Investigators are now looking for two masked men who fled the area.
This is a targeted occurrence, number one, and number two, it does have all the characteristics of street gang activity.
Around the same time, a stabbing inside a homeless drop-in center in the city's West End. It's in the basement of a church, and that's where paramedics found a man who was injured and later died in hospital. One person has been arrested. Quebec's public health authorities issued a warning over another possible exposure to measles. They say an infected person visited 3 public locations on Friday, 2 banks in Montreal's north, and a grocery store in Laval. This is Quebec's 20th case of measles this year. And a former teacher already accused of sex crimes against young people in Nova Scotia is now facing 64 more charges. Michael McNutt was first arrested back in January. At the time, the 66-year-old was working as a teacher, coach, and also volunteered. The charges stem from alleged incidents in the 1970s and 80s, almost all in Halifax. 33 alleged victims have been identified, but police believe there are more.
So you may not have heard of gadolinium, but if you've ever had an MRI, it may have coursed through your body. The medical dye enhances the visibility of body tissue, making it easier to spot abnormalities. An Edmonton area woman says it helped save her from a brain tumor, but as Rafi Boudjikanian tells us, she also blames it for an agonizing skin condition.
My skin is burning, it's like it's on fire.
Wanda Millie rarely leaves the house anymore. For 4 years, she's lived with these marks.
It's spongy, it doesn't like the sun when it can't direct sunlight and even just heat.
The marks appeared after Millie received 7 MRI scans between 2012 and 2015, part of medical care for her brain tumor. She was injected with gadolinium for the scans. The metallic dye creates sharp contrasts in imaging, improving detection.
I just wish there was more information on, like, for me and others.
She's dying right in front of me here.
Hollywood celebrity Chuck Norris and his wife Gina O'Kelly are suing drug manufacturers. O'Kelly says she suffered debilitating side effects from her MRI scans, which also used gadolinium.
It's like somebody's poured acid on your tissues.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration requires medical professionals to warn patients the dye may not leave their bodies. In a statement, Health Canada advises use gadolinium-based contrast agents only when necessary, use the lowest effective dose, and assess any potential risks before repeated doses.
What we need is larger patient data.
This radiologist acknowledges that nearly 1,500 adverse event reports are linked to gadolinium, but he says that's a small number considering the millions of Canadians getting injections every year.
What I would encourage them to do is to discuss the symptoms in depth with their physician.
Wanda Millie's already done that, but she says nobody's helped while she continues to isolate herself, even from her daughter.
It broke my heart that I realized I've allowed this to stop me from living, from doing things.
Millie wants others to hear her story and consider the risks. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta.
Still ahead on The National, the manhunt is over, but the questions still remain. We go in depth on our top story.
And later, Team Canada's hoop dreams ahead of the 2020 Olympics.
When I was growing up, I watched, last time they were in the Olympics with Nash and guys like Rowan, and I watched them a lot, and that inspired me to hopefully one day be there.
For weeks now, it's been concerning and captivating. How would the hunt for two fugitives in northern Manitoba end? Today, as we reported at the top of the show, the RCMP announced that they'd found two bodies not far from where Briar Schmigelski and Cam McLeod were last known to be, near the town of Gillam. Their last stop, it now appears, on a cross-country race from police.
May be an experienced police officer, but today I'm standing here as the father of a murder victim.
This story starts with tragedy. On July 15th, Australian Lucas Fowler and American China Dees are found murdered along a northern BC highway. Their families gutted.
It's a love story that's ended tragically. It really is. It's the worst ever love story.
That Friday, McLeod and Schmigelski's truck is found in flames off another BC highway. Not far away, the body of UBC lecturer Len Dick, now also a murder victim.
He loved the marine environment, and so he focused all his attention on that. But he also was really focused on his family.
The teens are first labeled as missing. On Sunday, they go shopping in Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan. By Monday, they're in northern Manitoba. That night, their last known vehicle is found in flames, once again. And on Tuesday, the RCMP changes their status.
Cam and Briar are no longer considered missing. The RCMP are now considering Cam McLeod and Briar Schmigelski as suspects.
Then they vanish. The RCMP descend on Gillam and search for days by foot, with dogs, and from the air with the help of drones and military planes. Nearly a week later, a potential sighting has police pouring into York Landing, Manitoba, but no trace of the pair is found. RCMP start to scale down their search, then a break. On Friday, August 2nd, RCMP spotted items connected to the suspects near the shore of the Nelson River near Gillam, and that gives police a small search zone. Today, results.
RCMP officers located two male bodies in the dense brush within 1 kilometer from where the items were found. We believe these are the bodies of the two suspects wanted in connection with the homicides in British Columbia.
So the manhunt is over, but there's still plenty of questions here. What could the motive have been? Why did the two suspects drive to northern Manitoba, and why did it take so long to track them down? And even though this case is no longer going to be before the courts, we still got very little information today from the RCMP. So let's go in depth with a former major crimes investigator, Steve Marisink. He's also the founding director of Elmar Group, a private investigative agency, and he joins us from Edmonton. Steve, I want to ask you to draw on your experience as an investigator, and let's start with the things that we know here. First of all, the escape path for these two suspects to rural Manitoba and then the woods. What does that tell you about them?
My first thought when I heard about that is that the two of them got in the vehicle and began traveling east, trying to stay to back roads, staying off the main highways, but still traveling east. I'm not sure they had a destination in mind. I noted when I looked on the map that the road where they were found, where they burned the last vehicle, was a dead end at the Nelson River. And I would be surprised if that was by intent.
In other words, they just ended up where they ended up, and then they, of course, at the very end, were in some thick woods. And you had suggested when we last talked, I think it was probably a week ago, you pretty well at that point thought that they were dead.
I did, and that was because there had been no contact with them, and that was odd, and it was strange. It was out of the ordinary, other than they had encountered misadventure of some kind.
We know that they burned, or it appears that they burned, two vehicles, one in British Columbia and one near Gillam, Manitoba. What does that tell you?
My first thought on that, again, Ian, is that they're looking to destroy evidence. Everybody watches TV, everybody knows what forensics can do, and by burning the vehicles, they believe that they can eliminate any trace evidence that they may have transferred between themselves that would link them to the crimes.
Now, in terms of evidence, the RCMP saying today that there is evidence that links these suspects to those two murder scenes, the couple first of all, and then the individual, Leonard Dick, but they still don't appear to know the motive. And so again, as someone who's a veteran investigator, a case like this, murdering a couple, murdering an individual person, and then apparently they're not suspected in any other murders, what do you make of that?
Well, it was interesting. I believe it was the deputy commissioner who indicated there was substantial evidence linking them to the scene of the young couple, which was an interesting comment. My thought, again, when I first heard of this, is that it was a random act. The vehicle was broken down at the side of the road, and for whatever reason that we may never determine, those two stopped and they had an interaction. And the scene there would probably provide a lot of information in terms of what the scene would look like, in terms of how it transpired, but we wouldn't know that motivation, and that might be something they will never know.
And you were a member of the Mounties for years. How do you feel your old police force conducted itself during this investigation?
Well, the most challenging aspect of any homicide, when it's a stranger homicide, in terms of there's no one link between the offenders and the victims, is to identify suspects. And I was actually very pleased to hear that within a relatively short period of time, they had linked the 3 homicides in BC and identified 2 suspects. So kudos to them for doing that. And from that point, it's a matter of following the route and tracking them as they can through the methods they had available to them. All 3 prairie provinces were on the alert to look for these individuals, and they surfaced, as they would.
All right. Steve Marisink in Edmonton, always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Still ahead on the National, jumping off of the Raptors' victory, how the Canadian men's basketball team is hoping to leave its mark.
I give them 10 out of 10 on buy-in. I mean, the guys that are here are in with both feet and with a pure heart.
I miss Coach Nick. The coach, the players taking their shot at the Olympics. That's next.
Wilcher couldn't get it going from range, works himself in, kick back out to Corey. Joseph is good from downtown.
Canadian men's national basketball team. It got its first chance tonight to show what it's got. It won this exhibition game against Nigeria, 96-87. It's a lead up to the World Cup next month and a potential leap to reach the 2020 Olympics. The team's hoping, of course, to build on the momentum from the historic NBA championship victory by the Toronto Raptors. The CBC's Devin Aru joined Team Canada at practice today.
Just 3 days into training camp, Canada's basketball team is taking shape, staring down the chance to qualify for the Olympics.
I'm getting a little older, but I'm still young. Don't put that tag on me yet. I'm still very young. But yeah, it doesn't get old. It's an honor.
Corey Joseph turns 28 this month, one of the longest-serving national team members.
Joseph got it!
He's made big shots for Canada on the international stage before, but never at the Olympics.
When I was growing up, I watched, the last time they were in the Olympics with Nash and guys like Rowan, and, I watched them a lot. And that inspired me to hopefully one day be there in the Olympics. So it'll mean a lot. It'll be a dream come true.
And Steve Nash.
A dream that hasn't been realized for nearly 2 decades. Not since the Sydney Olympics in 2000 has Canada qualified for the Games. Players like Joseph and Kelly Olynyk were watching all those years ago, wondering if and when they'd get their chance.
The time has come, and that would kind of be the last peg for us. It definitely would be an achievement and a dream come true.
Olynyk is open for three.
Olynyk and Joseph are the leaders on the team with a wealth of international and NBA experience over the years to lean on, now trying to pass it on to the supporting cast.
Pretty good energy in the gym, and we're happy to have all the guys here, and the coaching staff is getting us ready to go, so I think guys are excited to play.
Excitement bolstered by a coach who knows how to win. Nick Nurse, fresh off a historic Raptors title, now tasked with leading Canada and optimistic about what he's seen so far.
I give them 10 out of 10 on buy-in. I mean, the guys that are here are in with both feet and with a pure heart.
Something Nurse says could set this Canadian team apart, playing with heart, passion, and pride for a nation continuing to make its mark on the basketball world. Devin Haru, CBC News, Toronto.
So one person who recognizes just how big that mark really is this fellow, Adam Silver, commissioner of the NBA. In just a few short years, he's managed to transform the game, transform the league. I got the rare chance to sit down with him in the midst of the playoffs. So tonight we're revisiting a portion of that interview about Canada and the state of the league. Check it out. He is a woke leader in woke times. In his 5 years as the head of the NBA, Adam Silver has tackled everything from gender equality to racism.
The views expressed by Mr. Sterling are deeply offensive and harmful. That they came from an NBA owner only heightens the damage and my personal outrage. I am banning Mr. Sterling for life.
It took Silver just 2 months on the job to set the tone of how he intended to lead the league, forcing the sale of the Los Angeles Clippers when its owner, Donald Sterling, was caught on tape making racist comments. 2 years later, Silver was at it again, pulling the All-Star game out of Charlotte in response to North Carolina's controversial bathroom law that discriminated against transgender people.
We stand united being against any form of discrimination for any group in our society.
And when the NFL froze out Colin Kaepernick for protesting racial injustice in America, Silver said he was proud of the response shown by NBA players as they rallied behind Kaepernick's cause. It's no wonder he's being called the most progressive commissioner in professional sports. We're happy to have the time with you. I caught up with him at the NBA headquarters in New York. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for making time for Canada, Commissioner. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Obviously, we're feeling pretty good in Canada. We only have the one team, as you know. So
You used to have two.
I know. We'll get to that.
All right.
We'll get to that. We're about to celebrate 25 years of the NBA in Canada. How do you feel it has gone, with the exception of the other team, which we will get to? But the success of the Raptors, what are your thoughts about it?
My thoughts are it's gone incredibly well.
Yeah.
I was here 25 years ago when we expanded to Canada, and I think if we rolled the clock back and said, what are our fondest hopes and prospects for basketball in Canada, I think we've met them. I mean, the fact now that we have more players in the league from outside the United States, that the most players are from Canada, 13 right now in the league, which is quite incredible. And we're seeing stars emerging out of Canada. And of course, we're seeing the success of the Raptors right now. And the country, it's not just Ontario, but the country, has adopted the Raptors as their own. And lastly, I'll just say we're seeing it in terms of participation. We're seeing young kids, boys and girls, embracing the sport.
Since you were here when the expansion happened and there was initially the team in Vancouver, I know David Stern previously expressed regret that didn't work out. Do you have the same sentiment, or do you think it was ultimately best that the Grizzlies left when they did?
That's a tough one. I think in retrospect, I wish we had a team in Vancouver right now. I think clearly Canada could handle two NBA teams, sort of West and East in the country. So I share David's sentiment that we do have regret. I think we were a bit ahead of our time. I think there was a moment in the league where prospects seemed down in terms of the team. Attendance was down, ratings were down. So I understood from an economic standpoint why the then team owner wanted to move the team. And unfortunately, we're not in expansion mode right now, but it would be nice to have a team in Vancouver. It's a great market. I frankly have some in-laws that live in Vancouver. I get there. It's a beautiful city. Yeah. But we have regrets, and I think from a business standpoint, it's a failure. I mean, any market we leave, there's no other way to look at it.
What about the concerns that there have been, continue to be, I think, over Canadian teams being able to retain star players, whether it be taxes, weather, whatever? Do you think that those concerns have faded away, or how do you keep big names?
I don't think that the Raptors are struggling with that. I mean, we'll see what happens here, but I think increasingly we're a 30-team league, and those issues weren't unique to the Raptors. I mean, people have historically said that about lots of markets in the United States. And I think, frankly, in the old days, there was some truth to it from an economic standpoint, that if you were in a larger market in the U.S. as opposed to a smaller market, there was more economic opportunity for the player. I think that's very much changed now.
How much of the success of the Raptors has to do with Masai, and how much of his success is part of your global footprint because he's the first exec from Africa? How important is that to you?
Masai is incredibly important to this league and to the Raptors. I mean, to your point, certainly our first African-born GM, he grew up in Nigeria, and I think but is very much a global citizen, and I think that makes him a great fit for Toronto.
Why has the NBA taken such a progressive stance on so many social and cultural issues? The All-Stars game in North Carolina, allowing the players to be very much themselves, political if they want to be, and not if they don't. Why is that so important to you, to be progressive in that way?
I think it's part of the DNA of this league. I think the international influence on this league as well. I mean, the fact that we're a diverse league in many ways. I think we preach tolerance to people, that we're accepting of lots of different viewpoints in this league. And something I'm particularly proud of is that as we talk about the safety and being allowed to talk about issues that are important to you, that's been translated by a group of our current players into talking about issues of mental health and wellness. And Kevin Love, DeMar DeRozan, of course, speaking out about anxiety and depression.
I think everyone walks around with something that you can't see.
We all go through it. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are, man.
The best thing that I did was to come out and say, hey, look, I need some help.
It's been amazing to me because their willingness to talk openly about issues like that has opened the door for literally millions of young people to feel comfortable thinking, well, these supposedly tough athletes, can destigmatize talking about issues like that.
and for those young people, it's not necessarily even about speaking out publicly. It's about their willingness to say to a parent, a teacher, an administrator, a coach that I'm not feeling well, there's something bothering me. Things that I know that when I was a kid, you know, and played sports, was something that seemed like the furthest from your imagination, that you would be able to tell someone something like that.
The NBA has gone a long way to support the WNBA and women playing basketball, as you say, even in the coaching staff. In Canada, there was the CWHL that just folded, and lots of the women players have now reached out to the NHL to say, why can't you help support us? So I'm just wondering if there's a lesson in what you guys do for the WNBA for other leagues to try and support women in professional sport.
You know, I'm always reluctant to weigh in on other leagues, only because I don't know enough about it. I mean, I certainly read the stories about you know, the hockey league folding, I would say.
But how important is that to the NBA?
Well,
for
the
you
case
guys?
of the NBA, the WNBA is critically important. I mean, we've been operating that league for 22 years now, but there are difficult business issues. We haven't turned it into a sustainable business yet, but we're on the path to doing so. I think we, in terms of the NBA, we look at it as a strong investment on behalf of basketball generally, on behalf of women. That's why I recognize for hockey or for any other sport, you said it earlier, these are larger societal issues. And again, with the WNBA, I think in many ways we're way ahead of our time, because it's just now we're beginning to see the mainstream acceptance of professional women's sports. And ultimately, if it's going to be a business, that's required, because you need people to buy the tickets and buy the merchandise and watch it on television.
Do you love your job?
I really do.
Yeah, you could tell.
Yeah.
Thank you for the time. I really appreciate
Thanks
it.
for
So
being
nice
here.
to meet
Yeah,
you.
you too.
I really like that conversation. Up next on The National, the green algae spreading across Lake Erie, what it means for business and the environment in the area.
People at the beach, it could send them here, because I don't think anybody's going to want to swim in that bloom, or they're not going to come out here at all. Fluorescent green, yeah, no.
I'm Jamie Poisson. Tomorrow on CBC's daily news podcast Front Burner, with the federal election fast approaching, we're going to bring you profiles of the leaders of Canada's national parties. We start with Andrew Scheer and what makes him tick. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
At this time of the year, the waters of Lake Erie are normally a big draw for boaters and fishers and swimmers and sunseekers, but a stinky green sheen is keeping folks at bay. Yeah, that does not look good. Potentially toxic algae is growing in the western part of the lake, and for the first time, Canadian researchers are teaming up with their counterparts in the U.S. to find out how big and how harmful it is. Artie Pohl takes us there.
Not the pristine blue you typically see on a summer's day. Colchester Harbour in Lake Erie in Ontario is a shade of green, all because of an algae infestation.
I don't think anybody's going to want to swim in that bloom, or they're not going to come out here at all. Fluorescent green, yeah, no.
She says the toxic blooms coating the shoreline impact her bottom line. But the algae isn't just bad for business, it's bad for the environment. It can make fish sick, and if you eat that fish, it can make you sick too. It can also send toxins into the air that can cause breathing problems.
More than 80% of Ontarians get their drinking water from the Great Lakes, Lake Ontario, Lake Erie. Now, colonies of algae called algal blooms are more common in U.S. waters, but they're found on the Canadian side too.
So for the first time, Canadian researchers joined a U.S. team to go out on Lake Erie to collect samples.
Since 2015, we've had, I think, probably the 3 largest blooms on record, if we include this year as well. These algal blooms, whether they're toxic or not, reduce the beneficial uses of Lake Erie. The lake is a major driver of economies on both U.S. and Canadian sides of the border.
Take a sample. Ottawa has invested more than $1 million over 3 years for projects to restore and protect the Great Lakes.
Looking at how you can tackle algae is something that we can use all over, not just in the Great Lakes, but we can use across Canada and across the world. This is a global problem, climate change.
Back in Colchester Harbour, boaters hope to see their beach restored.
It's got a very offensive odor to it. I think it really reflects on the ability of the fish just seem to really shut down when the algae gets here and changes the clarity of the water.
And restoring recreation is one goal, but making sure the water is safe is the top priority. Artie Pohl, CBC News, Toronto.
Up next on The National, fighting hate with kindness in our moment. But first,
keep the change, you filthy animal.
in case you missed it, Hollywood's ravenous appetite for celebrating its own past has kicked up yet another notch. Disney has announced some big reboots for its new streaming service. I'm gonna kill that kid! Including the beloved Home Alone series, originally starring Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, and Donald Trump.
Down the hall and to the left.
Thanks. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Anyway, does everything need a reboot? Consider Spider-Man, blockbuster starring Tobey Maguire, blockbuster starring Andrew Garfield, blockbuster starring Tom Holland in less than 20 years. Ditto Batman, and sure, some Hollywood reboots have rocked. John Carpenter's The Thing, David Cronenberg's The Fly, Steven Soderbergh's Ocean's 11. But Planet of the Apes 2001 compared to 1968?
God damn you all to hell!
And while the new Ghostbusters was fine, it didn't really need to exist. And Tom Cruise's Mummy? Stinker. So come on, Hollywood, try something original for a change.
What's happening? Where am I?
When 11-year-old Ruben Martinez heard about the El Paso shooting, he was anxious and scared. His mom told him to think of something he could do to make El Paso a little better, so Ruben did. He calls it the El Paso Challenge. Ruben wants people to do 22 acts of kindness, one for each of the victims shot and killed inside the Walmart on Saturday. His El Paso Challenge is our moment.
We had been talking about it, of course, because he had been very anxious ever since it happened. So after a lot of discussion, I said, why don't you go think of something that you can do, I said, to show everybody that El Paso's good.
You could help someone in need when they're feeling stressed out.
Take flowers to a nursing home, open the door for people, leave money in a vending machine. He wanted to take food to the first responders, so we did go to Taco Bell, and I let him buy some tacos for everyone. We went and delivered them.
People from Twitter and Facebook, they chatted and they wanted to do it. El Paso is a loving, caring, and are willing to do anything to help out. We could make the world a better place.
You know, Rosemary, there was a clip in a piece that I guess Kim would have done a couple of days ago where somebody said in El Paso they need love, not hate, in the wake of that shooting. And something productive like this seems to fit that absolutely, right? Like you sort of see in places that have mass shootings, people feel like they need to do something, and what better to do than acts of kindness?
Yeah, and the other thing I like about that is so often I think parents are reluctant to talk about this with kids, but this mom, obviously the child had been exposed to it, and instead of sort of saying let's not talk about it, said let's do something that you can be part of to make people feel better. And I noticed the Dayton mayor did that today too. She gave some suggestions to people of things they could do to help. So something good out of something tragic. That is The National for August 7th. Good night, everybody.
Good night.